So this was my original idea for the channel. Almost a year ago, I got these kittens last May, and I've never been big on video, but they were so adorable, and I'd never had two kittens together to see them play and develop every day like this together. As far as we know, that these are my cats, Laverne and Shirley, by the way. Shirley is the Siamese, Laverne is the Tortico. And as far as we know, they are biological sisters. There were 4 kittens found with 2 adult females, so and the mom was Siamese. So we do think they're all from one litter. And the other 2 cats were like an orange and white, and one that was kind of like Laverne, but instead of gray, she had mostly white fur with the sort of apricot and gray spots. Anyway, so this video is not about my cats, but I was just introducing this is my original concept of having cat videos as sort of the spoons full of sugar to help the medicine go down. But I realized, they don't do this as much anymore now that they're adults, and so I haven't been taking as much video of them. So it would run out, and I also don't want to box myself in. But anyway, we'll do this from time to time because I love looking at these adorable videos again. So what I want to talk about today was, now that I've run out of cat footage, what I wanted to talk about today was, I just did some quick math. I was watching a video by Forbes about the billionaires and how much money they've lost since the election. And, obviously they're all still billionaires, but I think it's funny because one of my friends who's been looking for work for a long time, longer than me, in fact, is MAGA. I don't know if she's like full MAGA, but she's always voted Republican. And she told me that the day of the Dobbs decision, which she was quite gleeful about. That's how I found out she was conservative. Anyway, then I was in a hotel with her for the weekend. I could have left, I guess. Because it was in California, so I guess I could have driven home, but I was kind of in shock that weekend. Anyway, so she said something about, after the election, about, well, this is so good because now we'll find work because they're going to be so good for business. Which, of course, there's a difference between being good for billionaires and being good for business. Because the reason people became billionaires is they've extracted as much wealth and exploited labor to the point, that we're all seeing, where eggs for some reason are $10 a dozen when I can go to Costco and get 2 dozen for $10, but all the other stores have decided, well, there was a shortage and now we're just going to take advantage of bird flu and egg shortage and financial fears, and we're just going to charge $10, and it's not going to come back down. Once it went up to $10, it's staying there. That's where we're at now. Unless you go to Costco, when you can get twice as many eggs, and it's the same price it's been for the last 2 years since I rejoined Costco. And at Costco, in fact, I can get pasture-raised organic eggs for about $10 for 2 dozen, whereas at other stores, sometimes it's $10 for just regular eggs. I can get the higher quality eggs. So tell me that it's inflation or it's a shortage or it's bird flu, why is Costco giving me the higher quality eggs for half the price of other stores? Not to be a shill for Costco, but I renewed my membership when I was going to cut back and not renew it. But even if I just bought 2 dozen eggs a month, that pays for my Costco membership. Just that $10 savings on eggs more than doubles. I could buy two dozen every other month and it would pay for my Costco membership. Anyway, and it's also things like I buy the 2-pound bag of broccoli at Costco because the grocery store, it used to be 2 for $6 for the 2-pound bags of broccoli. And it went up to 6 at some point in the last year and a half, and it's just stayed at 6, and it never goes on sale 2 for $6 anymore. And whereas it used to be $4 or $5 and go for on sale 2 for $6 all the time at Kroger, or it's Ralph's in California, but it's a Kroger brand store. But during COVID, I was buying that broccoli like every week. I'd buy 2 pounds of broccoli and cook it, and that's part of my veggies for the week. Same with chicken, everything. The prices stayed high once they decided to raise them. So don't tell me that it's just inflation or it's shortages or it's bird flu, because they've just done it across the board. Oh, you'll pay $10 a dozen eggs. So, well, that's what they are now. Maybe 15 if you want cage free, or organic or anything that's better quality. because we don't care about the customer. We don't care about the employees, and that's why people are billionaires. Not because they were smarter or they were geniuses or they invented things. They exploited the government and getting contracts. I referred to before that Parker's permaculture calls Elon Musk the biggest welfare queen in America. And he's not even an American, and he makes, I think it's $400 billion a year, or I forget what his contracts are, but it's billions of government contracts per year. So when I saw this video from Forbes, to get back on subject, that's one thing I have to work on. I'm an old lady. I ramble. I go off on tangents, and I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, thanks to my friend Melanie Hamlet, who I've been a moderator for the last about a year, who's encouraged me to start my channel and encouraged me in so many ways. She's great person and a good friend. I lost my train of thought. Well, that was, if I didn't think that I was ADHD before Mel sort of pointed out certain aspects of that, particularly digressing on stories and meandering, that just proved it right there, because I forgot my train of thought that I was already on a digression about Mel and her sort of pointing out, like, that she noticed that she thought I was probably ADHD. She asked if I was, and I was like, I don't know, I never thought about it. I've definitely thought maybe I was on the spectrum at different points, and yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna just say I'm self-diagnosed there. So I've got that great combo going for me. But anyway, that was the thought that that I was trying to finish about Mel, was that she helped me recognize that myself, because it never occurred to me. Anyway, I was watching that Forbes video about all the billionaires losing money, so I think it's hilarious. All the people that thought this administration was going to be good for business, when, at least at the outset, the billionaires have lost billions of dollars. Now, granted, it's only dozens of billions for most of them. Like, I think Bezos was 29 billion, but he still has $300 billion. So he's going to be all right. But, for example, I took Musk just because he's largely responsible for a lot of what's going on, and a lot of the distrust towards business, and a lot of the boycotts and things like that are a direct response to what he's doing with his made-up department. And he's lost $160 billion. So instead of losing $160 billion, here's what he could have done. He could have given $470.45 to every American. I calculated 160 billion divided by 340.1 million Americans. I had to do it on Google because my calculator, I couldn't figure out how to do billions and million, like past 100 million it wouldn't do. So that's the figure, $470.45 for every American. He could have donated that instead of losing the money, and engendered goodwill for himself and the administration, instead of losing $160 billion. So now the only way he's going to recoup any of his earnings is to continue to gut our social network, but social welfare programs that people rely on to live. I myself am disabled right now until I find a remote job, which they're trying to cut back on. I am living on SSI, and it's a third of my rent, so I'm, in danger of losing my housing. I'm trying to move to somewhere that's much cheaper cost of living, but still not nearly enough. My brother is in the military, as is his wife. So if they cut military salaries or cut down the military, there go their salaries. I think they're both getting out of the military, but they'll still in part be reliant on the GI Bill for he's in college. They'll be reliant on. I think they're both going to get pensions. Not entirely sure, and certainly later in life they may need the VA for other things. My mother is in her 70s, so she relies on Social Security. She gets VA benefits from my father, who is a veteran, and her retirement, like most people's retirement nowadays, is invested in the stock market. So when the stock market went down, her retirement fund went down, and that happened in 2008, where she lost something like 40% of her retirement. So these actions that they're taking, not only are they not saving the government very much money at all, and they've been caught multiple times lying or exaggerating their figures, but also they're just hurting everyone across the board. And it's kind of the point. Musk came in as a billionaire saying the rest of us were going to have to suffer. Why? Why do we have to suffer? You have $330 billion. So in fact, he could make every American almost a millionaire. Granted, he'd be poor, but you know what he could also do? He could make every American citizen a millionaire. He could give everyone $2 million so that after taxes they'd still have $1 million. And I haven't done the math on what that would be at a 5% interest rate monthly income, but it would do a lot for your average American. And well, I'm still learning here, and my mic cut off when my screen went to sleep. What would, whatever that would be left over, let's say it's $1.2 million. What would that do for, average Americans? I could buy a home even in California, where I live now, and I'm trying to get out because I can no longer afford to live in my home state where I've spent most of my life, where I grew up. And I'm gladly leaving because not only is it so expensive, but being disabled and during the fires, it was terrifying because I was stuck in my apartment and wondering how the hell I would evacuate. And then once I evacuated, what would I do? With myself and 2 cats, I could barely get us to the car and get in the car. And then if I get somewhere else, I've got to try and do that all over again. And then I also need to constantly elevate my feet. So I'm not going to be able to do that in shelter. So my mobility that's already very limited is going to go progressively down as I'm evacuate somewhere. At least if I'm somewhere, I'm going to end up somewhere cold. If I am at least somewhere where you see these people open their doors in the winter and the snow is built up to the door, the height of the door. If I'm stuck inside for a couple of days, I can prepare for that and shelter in place. I'm not, as long as the roof is fine and other things are sturdy, I don't have to worry about a blizzard or even losing power for a couple of days, because I could get, a battery backup solar system that stays charged and could power, things for a few days. And in fact, if the house is cold, I don't even have to worry about powering the refrigerator. When the fires happen, and several times before the fire, we've had electrical outages, I think preventative electrical outages, because I am by a dry, grassy hillside that could potentially catch fire, so they've turned off the electricity here where I live more times than I've experienced in my entire life up to this point. I think it's we've had electrical loss of 3 hours or more, at least, I would say, between half a dozen to 10 times, 6, 7, 8 times this since I've lived here in the last 2 years. Some have been 3 or 4 hours. Some I have been overnight or when I was gone, so I only noticed because things like the microwave and the oven clock were flashing. And then right before the fires, there was a 24-hour power outage. And sometimes I've only noticed because the internet was down, right? Because if it's at night and I don't have lights on, or I've woken up, and the first thing I look at is my phone, it's not going to be affected. But it's only when I try to go on the internet or watch TV, which I only have streaming. So that's, sometimes my first sign that the power's been out. And so when the power was out, I think it was a week or so before the fires, and right before Christmas it had gone out, and during the fires, the one that was a week or so before the fires was 24 hours also. And my food in the refrigerator was actually fine. It wasn't particularly cold here, as I recall. It was probably in the 50s, so it wasn't super hot or super cold. But as long as I didn't open the refrigerator very much, just twice a day when I made food. I just got out when I needed, closed the door, and kept it closed, and then put things back as I needed to. I did, I'm not one to sit and stare at the refrigerator. I go in, I know some people do that. They just look and are like, what's in here? What am I going to eat? I know what I'm going to get before I get there, and grab it and go. And that really helped, and my food stayed cold and stayed safe. I even had ice at the 24-hour mark. Past the 24-hour mark, I don't know what I would have done. I was lucky that I was not one of those people during the fires that was without power for a week or more. But at any rate, I would rather be somewhere where it's cold, where I could prepare for that by having a deep freezer full of food, a pantry full of food, matches, candles, a battery backup system, and space heaters, so that I can shelter in place, as opposed to a fire where not only might I need to evacuate, but if you don't know Southern California well, there's lots of mountains and foothills everywhere. So if you tried, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she's like, I don't even know where I would go, because the freeways would be packed, because there's, to get out of the places where the fires are, which are often in the hills, and then come down, you're going through these narrow passes, and so is everybody else, because that's the only way through that pass is that highway, or that road. So you're trapped. And that was thing that was so terrifying about those fires, and particularly because they were in winter, because it's not even fire season. I'm actually trying to get out of Southern California in the next month or so, because the real fire season's coming, and that week or so was so terrifying. I can't imagine what August will be like. We haven't had much rain. So for better or worse, I guess not having much rain means we'll have less foliage, but at any rate, it's all terrifying. But I would rather be somewhere in winter. So the ADHD is just super showing, because I was talking about Elon Musk. But at any rate, my point was that, he could give us all $2 million so that we would have $1 million after taxes, or they could do it as a stimulus where it's only $1 million and what wouldn't be taxed. And I could buy a house somewhere less expensive, $100,000. I could even buy an income producing property, like a multiplex. I wouldn't even need an FHA loan or any kind of loan, because I could just buy it outright. And then I would just need to keep up, I'd still have a fund left over for maintenance and, upkeep and taxes and things like that. I could even give people free housing or very reduced housing as a benefit for, as a trickle down of what I received, right? Those things could stimulate the economy. I would have more cash to spend on other things. If I had tenants, those 3, 4, 5, 10 people could have more money, right? Because I could even buy a 10-unit building with $1 million, right? These people could be doing better things with their money. As other people have pointed out, where's the Elon Musk Memorial Hospital? Where's the Elon Musk, foundation? At least, the Zuckerbergs have a foundation. Who knows? I don't even know what they do, but I know they have one because I saw a job listed for it recently. And thank God for, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos' ex-wives, because they're donating money left and right. But not Elon Musk, and he has more money than all of them. How much is enough? I have daddy issues. I had a difficult relationship with my dad. He didn't always approve of everything that I did. He was physically abusive, but I also, as a semi-latchkey kid, he was the parent that was there in the afternoon. So he worked the graveyard shift, and if he was up when I got home, there were times we hung out. He gave me my love of stand-up. So not a perfect relationship, but I certainly had enough issues and problems and faced a lot of violence that I could decide to take that experience and harm other people, right? I could be abusive. I could be a criminal. I could, do whatever I could to harm other people. I could have maybe had some kind of lust for power and money, and maybe I'd be a billionaire if I had put my mind to it. But here's the thing. Every time I talk to a working class person, a friend of mine or whatever, when we talk about what we would do if we won the lottery, if we came into a bunch of money, inherited money, if we had a business that was successful, always in our planning process is who we would help and how we would help them. And often the business model or fantasy, model is a nonprofit or something like that, where we want to take the proceeds and help other people because we've struggled or suffered or been abused or had negative experiences. I think that's so healthy to want to turn your bad experiences to help other people, to prevent them from having that experience or to help them recover from that experience and build something better. That instinct is so good and so positive. Why am I not the person that has billions of dollars to actually be able to do that? And the people that do have that money, most of them aren't doing that, in particular the one who has the absolute most money of any human being on earth in human history, does nothing for other people at all. That correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see any charitable works from this man. And he could literally make every American and probably every South African a millionaire, and he would still be in not only a billionaire, but still have hundreds of billions of dollars left over. It's gross. It's so gross that I know we all know this, but when you just do something simple for this kind of issue, something as simple as I did, and break out a calculator, you just realize how much more gross it is. Because they could be helping us, but instead their instinct is, let's cut all the services that people rely on to be healthy and live and survive, and sometimes just scratch by. It's not like Social Security, disability, SSI, etc. VA benefits are that much, but they are that difference that keep someone off the street or keep them from starving or keep them having medications that make them physically and mentally and emotionally functional, so they can hold a job, so that they can take care of their children, so that they can manage their bills and their life. There's plenty of people that can be functional with their medications and therapy and physical therapy and all of that stuff. They can be much more productive and able to take care of themselves and not need greater interventions because they have those. And if RFK Jr. and, this administration has their way, they're going to take that away from people that are able to be sort of just average functioning people to make them non-functioning people. And then what happens? Are they going to be homeless like all the homeless people that became homeless during the Reagan administration who are mentally ill or on the edge of poverty and then got thrown into poverty? It's so I know the cruelty is the point, but it's so disgusting because they were already rich. They didn't need to be cruel. And it's almost like, is this all about Elon Musk becoming the first trillionaire because he's going to raid our treasury and transfer the money to himself? I haven't checked my bank account in a couple of days. Has he already stolen my money? I shouldn't have to worry about this. I have real problems. And I'm sure Elon Musk has real problems, but a lot of my problems could be solved with $330 billion. I'm not saying all of them could, but I could afford real good therapy. I tell you that. I could have therapy every day, and maybe I wouldn't feel the need to insert myself into the government of a country that I illegally entered and that has given me billions of dollars, and screw over people that go and work for me every day, that go and work for me and people like me every day. Why? Why do you need to screw us over and have more money when you have more money than you could ever spend, than any human being in human history has ever had? Okay. Rant over. Go and hug a cat.